Welcome to this 5-day challenge, the ACT challenge for healthy aging. My name is Maud. I'm also known as the Vitality Doctor. I am calling myself a healthy aging strategist because I love helping people with easy to implement simple strategies so that they can take control of their health at a cellular level. And let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. So maybe you're here because you are feeling overwhelmed. Let's face it, around approaching 50 and around the 50s, there's a lot going on, and it's very easy to feel like it's all downhill from here. And it can be very easy to feel overwhelmed. And a lot of the time, you know that you want to do something, but you're just not quite sure what. Or maybe you do want to be proactive and you know you do, but you're just very keen not to waste time on things that aren't effective. And maybe you're here because you just want to create longevity, so a life full of years and vitality, years full of life. And you just want to feel in love with your age at every age, not feel like it's all downhill. You literally want to be, oh, I'm just in love with my life, whatever age I am. Well, if any of those sound like you, then you're in the right place. So I'm just going to quickly recap what we know from science about aging. There's a concept that I want you to keep in mind, which is that we have our chronological age, which is determined by when we were born, the birthday candles we have on our cake every year, if we have a cake, and our biological age, which is how we look and feel. And the two don't need to match. So twin studies told us that twins with exactly the same DNA don't age the same. So it's not their genes, it's something else. What they found is that as they got to 40, 50, 60, that identical twins had the same chronological age, but often had a different biological age. And one had like a biological age reset, if you like, where they looked and felt healthier and more youthful and were able just to be living a more vibrant life. And so I have taken from this that we can twin ourselves. We've already created our 20 plus self. So for me, that's 87-year-old self. That person's already created by everything I've been doing up until today. And honestly, I feel like she's going to be pretty vibrant. But I can actually change some things I do today. And if I change the right things that activate my cellular rejuvenation mechanisms, my innate mechanisms for keeping me youthful, if I can activate those, then I'm going to create the even more youthful version of that future self. So we can twin our future self to be the more vibrant version. And I think that's quite exciting. The other thing that science tells us is there's not one size fits all. So anybody who's saying, oh, you've got to do it this way, or you've got to do it that way, no, that's not correct. That's not correct. You will be able to find something that fits for you. And it might be different from the next person, but that's okay because it's not one size fits all. And finally, we know from science that it's never too late to start. So whatever age you are today, welcome. Never too late to start, actually never too early to start. Taking control of your health at a cellular level is how you create longevity and vitality. So we want extra years in our life, so we've got more time to do the things that we love. We want more time. Cellular rejuvenation isn't about going backwards, it's about getting more time. And if we've got more time, we want to be able to enjoy it. So we want vitality to be able to enjoy it. So this is how it's going to, the challenge is going to work. There are two parts to it. There's taking control. and how to start. So taking control, I like to have formulas for things. So my taking control formula is capable. And on day 1 today, we're going to cover the C and the A from the capable formula. From days 2 to 4, it's going to be the P, and day 5 is going to be the ABLE. And we're talking about how to start. Well, the how to start actually falls under the P part of capable, and we'll be covering that on days 2 to 4. And we're going to be incorporating the latest science. And, I've used neuroscience, neuroplasticity, quantum physics, breathwork is all involved in creating this program, which is a framework for how you can set yourself up to activate your cellular rejuvenation mechanisms, reset your biological age so that your future self is a more youthful self. And why is that important? Well, probably then you've got more time to do the things that you love. That's what I'm going to be providing. But to make it work, you've got to provide something. You've got to take ownership of the process. Nobody can turn on your cellular rejuvenation mechanisms for you. Only you can do that. And taking ownership is also part of taking control. So you take ownership and then you take action. The actions don't have to be huge, but you need to take action to move from where you are today to where you want to go. So that's how it's all going to work. So capable. The C and capable stands for clarity. Clarity for where you want to go. The A stands for awareness of where you are. And we'll go into these both in a little bit more detail shortly. I'll just let you know the P is set priorities. So what are you going to do next? And that's where we'll bring in the ACT formula for what to do. But let's just get to the clarity and the awareness. So my husband and I got e-bikes. I was 63, he was 65. And I might be referring to the e-bikes a bit in this course. But the point I want to make just now is very early on when we first got them, we inadvertently, I sort of had chosen this particular place to go, and it was the wrong place to go. It was a mountain bike track, and it was an intermediate level when we weren't even really a beginner level. To be fair, I was making lots of rookie mistakes. My husband was fine, actually, but I was making lots of rookie mistakes. And there was this part where we went down a hill, across a creek, and then up the other side. And as I took off and going downhill, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going so fast. There's a creek, oh, there's a creek, there's a creek, there's a creek. I ended up in the creek. And it wasn't until after that somebody was like giving me some helpful hints. And they said to me, oh, you've got to look where you're going. That's what you don't look at the obstacle, you look at where you're going when you're doing mountain biking tracks, which I've realized they're not for me, but is good advice. Because if you don't look ahead to where you're going, you could end up anywhere. You could actually end up in the creek. So having clarity about where you're going is key to taking control. And then obviously you need an awareness of where you are right now. So we may all have the same destination. We want to be 80 plus, fit, healthy, active, doing stuff that we love. But we are starting in different places. So our journeys are not going to look the same. And that's okay. But we need to be aware of where we're starting. And that's why sometimes when you do a program, it works for everybody else, but it doesn't seem to work for you. Well, maybe you're starting at a different place from everyone else. And the program is designed to be for when you're at this place. This is the journey. This is the road when you're at this place. This is how you get here. But when you're at this place where you've got to do this, you've got to do something different. So taking control means being clear about where you're going and being aware of where you are. And this is really what we're going to talk about in more detail today. And this is going to be the task that is set up. So I didn't mention when I mentioned that we take ownership and take action. Every day there will be some tasks. They're not onerous tasks by any means, but I want you to get into the habit of taking action. And this course is running in a Facebook group and a Telegram course, a Telegram group. I would love it if you share your wins in there. That's great, but you don't have to. But if you do, that will be acknowledged. And, there may be a reward at the end for people who really get engaged. But in the first instance, the important thing is that you take action. So every day there will be some tasks. So let's get to clarity. How do we find clarity? Well, there's a process that I quite like to go through, which is called the why. What's my why? What's my why? Why do I want to be here in the first place? Why do you want to be here? Why did you join? What is it that made you join? Is it that, I want to make sure that I can play with my grandchildren, or that I can, pick them up, or, I want to make sure that I'm around for something that's going to happen. I don't know. You would have your own why. And we will go through a process a little bit here, but it's going to be a little bit quick. So it may be that you take what we're discussing today here and you do it after this video is finished. You take a little bit more time about it, sort of settle down and think about it. So when you're finding your why, it isn't just, you've got to go deep. It's like, okay, I could say, I want to pick up my grandkids. Well, why is that important? Why is that important? Why is that important? You keep going through this process of why is that important until you keep coming up with the same answer, or you've done it 7 times. So I'm going to go through the process for me a little bit so you can sort of see how it was. And sometimes finding out why you want something is easier to start with what you don't want. So for me, I have longevity in my family. My dad was 92 when he died, but he had had a stroke and he was quite disabled for the last few years of his life. My mum is going to be 90 shortly, and she has visual problems, vision impairment. And I believe I'm going to live long, but I don't want to be disabled. Okay, so now I've got that in my mind. So what's my why? I want to be able. So I want to be able, not disabled. Okay, that's my first thing. I thought, why is that important? Well, I want to be able to live independently. I want to be able to be independent. Well, why is that important? It's like, well, I quite like having options. I like it to choose. Why is that important? It's like, I want to be free to live my life my way. Why is that important? Well, now I'm starting to keep coming back to the same thing. So I just want to feel free. I want to make my own choices. I want to be able to go where I want to go, when I want to go, without having to be dependent on other people. Why is that important? I just want to feel free. So I keep coming back to the same thing. The feeling for me is freedom. And when I feel that freedom, that idea of freedom, then I can really get a sense of myself at 80, 90, 100. It's like freedom. When I think of that, I can see it, I can feel it. Freedom. And we can make an affirmation. So affirmations work very well in some circumstances. Some people say they do and sometimes they don't. It depends on your mind state, but the way that we'll be using them in this course, they can be effective if you follow the guidelines. So the first thing is to always use the present. So I am. So rather than thinking I will be free when I'm 100, I was like, I am free. I am freedom. So it's almost not like I am free. I am freedom. I'm not just free. I am the whole thing. So I'm not confident. I'm confidence. It's more than just a feeling free. It's I am freedom. So that's my intention. That's my why. And it can be very helpful for me, like, when things come up, when I'm trying to choose, is this good for me? Is that good for me? Is to think, is this freedom for me? For example, coming back to my mountain biking, going on those mountain bike tracks, which are zigzag here and there, jumps there, obstacles, that's not freedom. That doesn't feel free. That feels restrictive. And yeah, so I love being on trails. That feels like freedom, riding my bike through trails and having a look around, but being on those other mountain bike tracks. So I don't choose those. So I can use my intention as freedom to guide me in little decisions that I make, but it's always my guiding principle. I am freedom, and I can visualize what that means to me. And I use all my senses. What does it look like? I'm dancing around. It's my 100th birthday. I'm dancing around the room. There's laughter, not at me, but with me. In the room, I feel alive. I've got, I'm feeling alive and really enjoying the hugs and the company that I'm getting. I love the smell of the beautiful, what are we having? We're having something gorgeous for, our part, the meal, and I can smell it, and I've involved all of my senses. I don't know that I've mentioned them all there, but I can get there and I can really imagine it. And so be clear about where you want to go. Find out what your why is. Go deep, not just like superficial. I want to do such and such. Well, why do you want to do that? Because beyond all of it is a feeling. And feelings have frequencies. And we want to live in the frequency of that feeling, that I am freedom. It's got a vibration. And we want to create that vibration going forward. I'm not going to get sciencey on it, but it's important. So that's your first task, is to figure out your why. And it could just be my why is I am freedom. You could make it an I am statement. You might want to even write out a little, scenario like my birthday party when I'm 100, or whatever works for you. Now, for me, it's easy for me to see myself as 100 because there are people in my family who are 100. You might be sitting there going, well, I don't see myself at 100. That's fine. See yourself in 10 years and in 20 years and, do what's feasible. You don't do something that just doesn't feel real. Just do something and then create the reality around it, if you know what I mean. So I've created my 100-year-old reality because 100 feels reasonable to me. But to a lot of people, that's like, whoa, that's a big stretch. I'm not expecting you to do that. But do see yourself in the future and create your why and figure it out. So that being done, we're now going to go into our where are we now? And I have a quiz. Don't need to read everything on here because there is a PDF that you're going to get that's got everything written down. This is just to remind me. This is where we get raw and real about where we are. This is to ourselves. We don't have to fool ourselves. We don't have to, this isn't for anybody else. This is just for us. Where am I now? And in different areas of my life. So this quiz, and actually the quiz has these questions. There are 10 questions, and then it's got 4 options for each. So A, B, C, D. And so it's not, you don't have to just guess it. So how would you rate your overall energy levels? How do you sleep? What's your stress levels like? How do you think about your physical fitness? What do you think about your diet and nutrition? How are you about engaging your mind? How are your social connections and support systems? How do you feel about your sense of purpose? How are you about, resilience in terms of that adaptability to change and new challenges? And how optimistic do you feel about your future? And that gives a little bit of an idea of your current vitality awareness. And so you will get the PDF, as I've mentioned, and you can go through it. And so I've made a wheel. Here's the wheel. And so each of those questions, so the first, number 1 was the question about energy, number 2 is the question about sleep, number 3 about stress, 4 physical, etc. And then I've gone through and done A, B, C, D, and if it's an A, it gets 1. So this is the first level here. If it's a B, or it gets a 2. If it's a C, it gets a 3. You could also score. And if it's a D answer, you get a 4. So then I've just coloured in different ones. So like you can see I'm quite good with some things like energy, and I've been quite generous to myself. Maybe if I did it another day, I would have scored myself a little bit less, but you can sort of see physical, I've given myself a 2.5, not even a 3, 2 for nutrition, and social, a 3 for purpose and change. So there are places that I could definitely work on, but I've got some physical, so some visual idea. And so you will have the opportunity to use this same process. You don't need to do it right now. And, you can either just score it 1 to 4. So then you've got 10 to 20 points. Okay, emerging, 21 to 30 growing, and 31 to 40 thriving. And I love that it says thriving. It doesn't say you've got there, because you've never really got there. It's always a process. And the key isn't, comparing mine to yours or yours to the next person. It's about comparing yours now with yours in the future. So I've done it today. I've only just created this. I've never done it before. So I will do it again maybe in 3 months' time. So I've put a date on it. I'll do it again in 3 months' time, and I'll see where I am in the system. But having done it is really helpful to me, because I can clearly see where I need to put some focus. I need to focus on number 4, which is physical activity, number 5, which is nutrition, and number 7, social. So and I maybe a number 7 on another day I might have scored myself differently, but this is how I scored it today. So it gives me a clear idea of where I need to go. And so that's really helpful for me, and that'll be helpful for you as well in knowing, okay, well, some people are going to be scoring 4 on physical, but they might be scoring very low on nutrition. So you go to nutrition. Some people will be 4 on nutrition, but very low on learning. So maybe learning is where you want to put some focus. So just being very aware of you are and having this idea will give you a guide about where to go. So another part of this, my longer program, my 12-week program, Vibrant Age Revolution, which is a 12-week course, we really go step by step, and it's much more in-depth and hand-holding. But I have breath work infused in it. And so I wanted to introduce breath work here as well, because breath is such an amazing way for us to access our nervous system. And I will talk a lot more about this on day 3. But just for now, I want to just let you know that breath allows us to rewire our nervous system. It puts us in a state of cellular rejuvenation. Cellular rejuvenation doesn't happen all the time. We need to be in a state of cellular rejuvenation. It helps us clear blocks that we might have to new habits. Do you know how you have, sometimes you want to do something new and you just keep sabotaging yourself somehow. It keeps falling, you never quite manage it because you might have an internal subconscious block. Where the breath helps us clear blocks. It helps us connect with our intention being our why, and create the frequency of that intention. Remember, I said there's a frequency. So breath can help us do all of these things. And so throughout this program, I am going to be doing, just checking the timing, I am going to be doing some breath work. And for today, I'm going to do different amounts because everybody's going to feel more comfortable with a different version, with a version. So today is going to be quite a simple one. It's going to be probably less than a minute. So if you take a moment, just relax your neck, relax your shoulders, sit up straight. You might want to close your eyes or not, that's fine. I'm just going to tell you a couple of things before we start. Do this at your own rhythm. You shouldn't feel dizzy. You shouldn't feel tingling. If you do, you just go back to a natural breath. I mean, it's going to be a minute. It's unlikely those things will happen, but I just want to be sure that everybody listens to their own body. Don't do this if you're pregnant. And because you might be doing it with your eyes closed, it's important to do it in a place where you're undisturbed, and definitely not when you're, driving machinery or doing anything that requires concentration. So I will also ask you at one stage to pull your belly button in and out. So that's where you're actually pulling your belly button in and then releasing it. So it comes in towards your spine and then out again. And then there'll be a bit where I'll say, squeeze your pelvic floor. And that's sort of as if you're stopping yourself peeing. It's a very quick practice, so you don't have to get too worried about it. But just so you know those things, because it's such a quick practice, I don't want you to be like, oh, what did she say? And then it'll be all over. Just relax. Close your eyes if you want. Take a deep breath in through your nose, expanding your belly. Put your hand on your belly, feel it expanding. And out through your mouth. In through your nose, expand your belly. And out through your mouth. And just notice as you breathe in, expanding your belly, expansion in your body. And then as you breathe out through your mouth, relaxing and letting go. And remember your intention, I am. And on the next breath, take a deep breath in through your nose, expand your belly. And as you breathe out, let a sound come, a loud sigh or any sound. And one more time, breathe in through your nose, expand your belly, remember your intention. Breathe out with the sound. And at the end of this breath, you're going to hold it. Don't breathe in, just hold with your breath out and pull your belly button in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out until you need to breathe again. And when you do, just breathe in through your nose. And hold it, relax your neck, relax your jaw, just hold, squeeze your pelvic floor. Imagine golden light going up your spine, filling up your brain. Remember your intention, I am, feel grateful for it. I am, thank you, thank you, thank you. And now breathe out. And finally, we're going to breathe in through our nose. And we're going to exhale with a hum through our nose. Okay. There you go. Just notice how you feel. We did quite a lot in that breath. How do you feel? You feel lighter? Maybe you don't feel anything. It was very short breath. But we will be exploring some other breath work through this course. But for now, I just want you to look at your tasks for day one. If you do post, do hashtag day one, so it'll be easy for us to find those. So your task is to do what's your why exercise. So what's your why? Thinking, why do I want something? And then going, why is that important? Why is that important? Why is that important? Either until you keep coming up with the same thing or you've done it 7 times. And then what's the feeling? What's the feeling you get with that? Because that feeling is the vibration that you want to create. And that can be your intention for these 5 days. I am. For me, I am freedom. And when I think about it, I can visualize my future self in that state of freedom using my 5 senses. So do that process because you want to be clear about where you're going. And then we need to be aware of where we are. So do the vitality quiz. There's a separate PDF file, and it's got all the questions with the possible options for the answers. And you can either just score it and give yourself a score, or you can actually visually fill in the wheel so you can sort of see. And as I said, it's not a competition. It doesn't matter what your score is. It honestly doesn't matter. If it was like the least you could get is 10, because you'd get 1 for each of them. Even if it's 10, what does that mean? Well, that means there's so much room for it to get better. That's how I would look at that. So it doesn't matter what the score is. That's not what's key. The key is you being aware so that you start your destination to where you know where you're going, but you know where you're starting. And then you can create the roadmap. So thank you for joining, and I will see you again tomorrow. Stop the share.